story, I also began to read some of the comments. Have you ever read the comments on Lancaster Online or WGAL and other places? It strikes me that people will lash out at this woman because of her choice in boyfriends, and they will blame her. And I can't help but think all we are doing is adding to the mourning and the pain. Where is this comfort that is promised when we read, God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted? Somewhere in the world today, a young woman will be sold into slavery by her family. And none of us will hear about it. None of us will think about it. But the fact remains, it will happen somewhere in the world today. And somewhere in the world today, millions of other young women and children are in slavery because of the twisted desires of someone who wants to either make a buck or who wants to live out a horrific fantasy of their lives. And so they use these women and children. I'm trying to be as least graphic as I can. The fact remains, these things are happening all over the world. Somewhere, an American soldier who's witnessed the life of her comrades die on the battlefield has just received tragic news of the death of her father. She couldn't make it home to see him. Her life is filled with mourning and pain and agony. But the Beatitude tells us, blessed are those that mourn. God blesses those who find themselves in mourning, for they will be comforted. Somewhere in the world today, somebody is filled with deep shame and guilt to the point where they feel their lives have ended. Their life is over. There's no hope for them. They're stuck. The weeping and the grief and the mourning and the pain. Cancer has been diagnosed. Disease strikes. Natural disaster. We read about it. Have I brought you down sufficiently enough to experience the mourning that the world outside is experiencing right now? Or is it just the world outside? Maybe it's part of the world that is gathered together here this morning that too is experiencing that mourning, that pain and that brokenness. Over what or about what do you find yourself mourning today? Maybe some of the things that I referenced don't touch you, but maybe some of the things that I referenced do touch you. When we look out into the world and we see poverty and we see oppression, shouldn't that break our heart? Is there anything we can do about it? Or are we hopelessly stuck in this place of mourning, wondering what in the world this beatitude means for us? To mourn is to see that brokenness in your own life or in the lives of others, lives of the world, to see that brokenness and to experience it. But how do we get through it? Where is the other side of it? The fact of the matter is, the Beatitude does not simply speak to those who mourn in that sense of you are blessed if you are mourning and you are stuck in your mourning. Rather, the Beatitude gives us some hope that there is comfort for those who mourn, and God promises this comfort. The comfort is promised somewhere in the world to come, in the life to come, in the resurrection state of the world. make up for it all, but rather to do nothing except sit back and allow God to enter his life and break his heart. Make him new again. It says in that song, God, you desire a broken and a contrite heart. It's not thousands of offerings, rams and bulls that I could bring that would satisfy you, but rather it's to open my heart to you and let you break it. But not to leave it broken, to make it new again. And that's the good news for us in this song, that sense of comfort that can come to us, that sense of healing that we can find if we open our lives up to the living God and allow God to come in and heal us and change us. But here's the catch. It comes with a catch for us. The catch is this. When we have found ourselves in mourning and brokenness, and we've experienced the living God come in to change us, it does not leave us paralyzed to do nothing. Rather, it inspires us to action. It inspires us to the very action which we ourselves have experienced. That is God coming and comforting us, God now sending us to comfort one another. I shared a little bit about my story, but before I continue with that, I thought about this bracelet this morning that I picked up along the way in the last 3 months. Some of you know this bracelet. Anybody have it on this morning? I saw that Sam, our custodian, had it on. Anyone else wearing this bracelet? This is a bracelet of mourning and comfort. It's the Bear Strong bracelet. With Mark 12:30 written on it, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. I might add the 31st verse, love your neighbor as yourself. But Bear Strong, I remember reading the stories in the newspaper, the sports page, about Colin Bear Shank, one of our very own from this congregation, a student at Lampeter Strasburg High School, a sports standout. I've watched him on the football field. Amazing young man. You know his story. Diagnosed with a brain tumor. And community, not just of church, but all of the community rallied around him with bracelets like these to remember to pray for him, to encourage him, to hold him close in our hearts. And thus far, God is doing good work in his life, and there's some sense of comfort that is coming. But we found that comfort because we opened ourselves to God, and God came in and broke our hearts and invited us now to be repaired in heart and mind and spirit together as one to support this young man and his family, to love him. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall find comfort. Something so simple as
David says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. The valley. It is a depression or an extended canyon that seems to go in one direction. It seems like it would go on forever. You see, we all seem to go in these valleys in our life. We may be entering a valley, we may be in the middle of the valley, or we're about to leave the valley. And the valley, it comes in all different shapes and forms. It can be the loss of a friendship, the metaphorical death of a dream or missed opportunity. It can even be the literal death of someone that we love. Basically, it is something that ceases to exist in our lives as we now know it. Ecclesiastes says that there is a time for everything. There is a time to laugh, and there's a time to cry. It's that mourning season. It is that season of pain. Everyone hurts at some point. We all feel the pain of experiencing the valley of the shadow of death. When we are in the midst of pain, it feels like it goes on forever. There's no relief in sight. I'm not talking about having a bad day or even a big inconvenience. I'm talking about those seasons when the pain hurts in our bones, in our gut, into the very core of who we are. So where do we go when we mourn? Where do we go with those thoughts of pain and those wounds? Jesus said, for those that are mourning, do just that, mourn. But he also gave a promise that there will be comfort. So for those people that are in the valley with no end in sight, they must be comforted. And we want to help. We want to be there for people. But in reality, there are really no words to say for someone who is sitting in their mourning booth. We try to tell jokes. We think that laughter should lighten their mood. It doesn't always seem to work. If laughter is the best medicine, why does it seem to sting when we're in the valley? And others try to offer perspective. We really don't know what to say, so we try to offer some counsel. We'll say stuff like, all things work together for good. It's true, but the timing may be a little off. Sometimes we find ourselves trying to comfort someone we really love. We say it's time to move on, to rise above it, to get over it, that there's a life still to live. But if we were to really look at them, we'd see their pain. For those of us who can't see the pain, we leave, we exit. We cannot sit in the mourning booth any longer. We cannot stay in the valley. Everyone must take their turn in the mourning booth. However, they shouldn't have to do it alone. Paul calls out the cry for the followers of Jesus. Mourn with those who mourn. Carry one another's burdens. We must get in close proximity with the person in pain. Never underestimate the power of your presence. When a person is seated in their mourning booth, there is something eternal and gently and quietly taking a seat next to the wounded. St. Francis said, share Jesus with others, and if you have to, use words. You see, you don't have to use words at all. It can make all the difference in the world when someone's willing to sit and share in the pain, the sorrow, and the hurt. It is a holy response.
well, if you just do these 3 things, your life will get better. But rather to be present, to love, to encourage, to sit quietly with, to send a prayer shawl or a note, or to join in by wearing a band to show your sense of commitment and solidarity with somebody else who is mourning. To do something that would look like the character of God at work in your life. We have an opportunity to really bring these Beatitudes alive. If we begin to understand what it means that God blesses us when we mourn, for comfort is available to us, if we are willing to look and open ourselves to it. God will come, and God will comfort us. Let us pray. God, we ask for your grace, your mercy, and your peace even now. When we find ourselves weak and empty,